on his way to a meeting. Let's take a look at another prominent figure that has so far died of COVID in Tanzania, Dr. Mohamed Seif Hatib, a politician who held several ministerial positions during the administrations of former presidents Benjamin Mkapa and Jakaya Kikwete, and he died on February 15th in Unguja in Tanzania. We also have Professor Ben Ndulu, the former Bank of Tanzania governor, who died on February 22nd, and details on his cause of death were very scanty, but he had been unwell for weeks. Notice how most of these deaths occurred in the month of February, and of course in various countries we've seen the month of February being a peak in some of these numbers. So of course Professor Ben Ndulu, the former Bank of Tanzania governor, who died on February the 22nd, and details of the cause of his death were very, very scanty, but he was unwell for weeks. These are just some of the big names that we have been seeing from Tanzania. Another being Atashta Nditie Mohambwe, Member of Parliament and former Deputy Minister for Works, who died on February 12th at the Benjamin Mkapa Hospital in Dodoma. Remember, this is a position that President Magufuli held in his onset years as a cabinet minister in charge of work. Saif Sharif Hamad, Zanzibar's first vice president, died on February 17th, and this was one of the most prominent cases we got from there. The government did not disclose the cause of death, but his act was a lendo party stated that Hamad and his wife had tested positive for COVID-19 3 weeks before the popular politician died. All this happening in the month of February. John Kijazi, the Chief Secretary and head of the Civil Service, died on February 17th while receiving treatment at the Benjamin Mkapa Hospital. And finally, we have Dr. Savasius Likwelile, a former Finance and Planning Permanent Secretary, who died on February 20th, and his cause of death was not disclosed to the public. Last one that we have so far for you, and the prominent figures that have so far, personalities that died in the month of February alone this year. In early March now, the Catholic Church in Tanzania sent out a statement that at least 60 nuns and 25 priests had died in the last 2 months after showing symptoms of COVID-19. This is the Catholic Church making that announcement in early March, coming after various deaths of prominent personalities in Tanzania on what was largely perceived to be out of COVID-19 complications. Tanzania once again on the spot on how it has handled this novel virus. Very different from how the rest of the countries in the world have done it. And we have seen a lot of concern from the international bodies like the WHO on how this had been handled in Tanzania. A lot of condolence messages continue to stream in currently from the death of John Pombe Magufuli. That announcement was made officially last night by the Vice President, who's set to ascend to power, Vice President Samia Hassan Suluhu, who said the president had died of heart complications. A lot of speculation still on what might have killed John Pombe Magufuli, but official communication states that he died of heart complications. Let's take a look at some of the condolence messages that we are getting so far from international personalities, leaders. Start with Somalia's President Mohamed Farmajo. Kwa niaba yangu na kwa niaba ya serikali na taifa la Somalia, ningependa kuwasilisha rambirambi zetu kwa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania kwa kumpoteza kiongozi Rais John Pombe Magufuli. Tunalitakia taifa zima na serikali subra na utulivu katika kipindi hiki cha maombi na maombolezo. That's Somalia's President Mohamed Farmajo. Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi, kwa masikitiko makubwa, tarehe 17 Machi 2021 saa 12 jioni tumempoteza Rais Dr. John Pombe Joseph Magufuli, ambaye amefariki kwa maradhi ya moyo katika hospitali ya Mzena jijini Dar es Salaam alipokuwa akipatiwa matibabu. Mungu ailaze roho ya marehemu mahala pema peponi. Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi there just also giving a formal announcement of the death of John Pombe Magufuli. Dominic Raab from the UK government, my condolences on the death of Tanzania's President John Pombe Magufuli. My sympathies go to his loved ones and all the people of our Commonwealth partner, Tanzania. A lot of condolence messages from across the world continue to stream in. Those who are eulogizing President John Pombe Magufuli, mixed reactions, as we have seen even on this show since we began on the death of Magufuli and what it portends for the Republic of Tanzania. We are striving to keep you up to speed with every possible angle of this particular report, breaking story of the death of President John Pombe Magufuli. We'll also be speaking to a number of personalities still who are helping us just dissect some of the issues coming out of Tanzania. What's next? We have seen the Constitution is very clear that the Vice President will ascend to power, will take over. Remember, John Pombe Magufuli was elected for his second term just last year, so there's 4 more years to go. So then what do we expect in the Suluhu government? Perhaps the opposition already citing that they will be calling for fresh elections, but then there's worry that the rule of law has to be followed. So we'll be speaking more to Tundu Lissu and Jebra Kambole, a lawyer from Tanzania, to give us more details on these latest happenings from Tanzania. Let's take a look at the condolence messages still running on your screen. It's exactly 6 a.m. here in Nairobi, Kenya. Good morning from wherever you're watching us from, and welcome to this special broadcast on KTN News. If you're just joining us, we've woken up this morning to the news of the death of Tanzania's President John Pombe Magufuli. President Magufuli was pronounced dead last evening at 6 p.m. and Vice President Samia Suluhu Hassan broke the news to the world, saying Magufuli had succumbed to a heart ailment that had plagued him for over 10 years. Suluhu further announced a 14-day mourning period in Tanzania. Let's listen into what the Vice President had to say.
Kwa masikitiko makubwa nawajulisha kuwa leo tarehe 17 Machi mwaka huu 2021 majira ya saa 12 jioni tumempoteza kiongozi wetu shupavu, Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, Mheshimiwa Dr. John Pombe Joseph Magufuli, ambaye amefariki kwa maradhi ya moyo katika hospitali ya Mzena jijini Dar es Salaam alipokuwa akipatiwa matibabu. Mheshimiwa Rais Magufuli alilazwa tarehe 6 Machi mwaka huu katika taasisi ya moyo ya Jakaya Kikwete kwa tatizo la mfumo wa umeme, tatizo la moyo la mfumo wa umeme ambalo kitaalamu linajulikana kama chronic atrial fibrillation, ambalo alikuwa nalo kwa zaidi ya miaka 10. Aliruhusiwa tarehe 7 Machi mwaka huu na kuendelea na majukumu yake. Tarehe 14 Machi mwaka huu alijisikia vibaya na akakimbizwa hospitali ya Mzena, ambapo aliendelea na matibabu chini ya uangalizi wa madaktari na wauguzi wa taasisi ya moyo ya Jakaya Kikwete hadi umauti ulipomkuta. Mipango ya mazishi inafanywa na mtajulishwa. Nchi yetu itakuwa katika kipindi cha maombolezo kwa siku 14 na bendera zitapepea nusu mlingoti. Bwana ametoa, jina lake lihimidiwe.
A visibly shaken Vice President Samia Hassan Suluhu making that formal announcement last night of the death of President John Pombe Magufuli in what she terms as having been from heart complications. And we now want to take a look at what happened weeks before. There had been a lot of speculation and anxiety on the whereabouts of the president, his health status, whether he was okay. A lot of pressure was piling on the administration to make known these details. Sophia Anuna, deputy editor here at the Standard Group, worked on a report on some of the happenings to the run-up to this announcement of the death of John Pombe Magufuli. Let's take a look at that report.
Days of speculation had turned into weeks, and the whole world was asking, where is Tanzania's President John Pombe Magufuli? And on Wednesday night, his deputy, Samia Suluhu Hassan, became the bearer of the dreaded news.
Kwa masikitiko makubwa, nawajulisha kuwa leo, tarehe 17 Machi, mwaka huu 2021, majira ya saa 12 jioni, tumempoteza kiongozi wetu shupavu, Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, Mheshimiwa Dr. John Pombe Joseph Magufuli.
The Vice President revealing Magufuli had been hospitalized on Saturday, March the 6th at Jakaya Kikwete Cardiac Institute. The announcement coming after weeks of anxiety over the whereabouts of the president amid suspicion that he had been hospitalized with COVID-19 related complications.
Tusiogope, siku moja tutakufa. Hata mimi nitakufa. Kutokana na alichokipanga Mungu, naweza nikafa kwa corona, naweza nikafa kwa nini? Na ndio maana mnaniona hata mimi sijavaa barakoa. Sio kwamba siogopi kufa.
Magufuli had not been seen in public for 18 days, and rumors had been rife that he was seriously ill. On Tuesday, opposition leader from the Alliance for Change and Transparency, ACT, Wazalendo, issued a statement demanding that the government tell the country Magufuli's whereabouts and announce succession plans if indeed he was indisposed and unable to discharge his mandate.
Tell the Tanzanian people where their president is and whether he's fine or not. The health and well-being of a president is a matter of grave public concern. It is not a private matter.
There had been speculation and rumors on social media that the 61-year-old president may have contracted coronavirus and been airlifted to Kenya for treatment before later being moved to India. The Tanzanian government would neither confirm nor deny the reports. However, early in the week, VP Suluhu had hinted that President was indeed unwell, saying if ever there was a time Tanzania needed prayers, it was now.
Tanzania tuko salama. Tanzania tuko salama. Ni kawaida ya mwanadamu kukaguliwa. Mara mafua, mara homa, mara chochote kile. Niwaombe dua tuendelee kuwa salama. Lakini nataka niwaambie kwamba katika wakati muhimu wa Tanzania kushikamana ni wakati huu. Kujenga umoja ni wakati huu.
The main opposition leader Tundu Lissu, who is exiled in Belgium, had, citing sources, claimed that Magufuli had been gravely ill from COVID-19, exacerbated by underlying health conditions. And so, after days of uncertainty, the man nicknamed the Bulldozer is no more. Rest in peace, John Pombe Magufuli.
And the Bulldozer was the 5th president of Tanzania, having been elected as president in 2015. and then re-elected in 2020 before his untimely demise. But his career in politics spans 20 years, began in Chato in North Tanzania. But before that, he was a math and chemistry teacher. Duncan Haemba worked on the life and times, on a report on the life and times of John Pombe Magufuli, and filed the following report.
The abrasive, no-nonsense, straight-shooting and controversial 61-year-old Tanzania president, Dr. John Pombe Magufuli Joseph, was born on 29 October 1959 in Chato, a town in northwestern Tanzania. Magufuli attended his primary education at Chato Primary from 1967 to 1974 and Lake Secondary School, where he graduated in 1978. He would a year later join Mkwawa High School for his advanced level studies until 1981, when he enrolled for a diploma in education science, majoring in chemistry, mathematics and education. President Magufuli earned his Bachelor of Science Education degree majoring in chemistry and mathematics from University of Dar es Salaam in 1988, before earning his master's and doctorate degrees in chemistry from the same institution. Magufuli joined politics in 1995, getting elected as a member of parliament for Chato district and was appointed Deputy Minister for Works. He was re-elected in 2000 and appointed Minister for Works in the late President Benjamin Mkapa administration. When Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete took over from Mkapa in 2005, he appointed Magufuli minister in 3 different ministries: Lands and Human Settlement, Livestock and Fisheries, and later Minister for Works. Magufuli, whose Chato hometown had propelled him to national politics, holding several ministerial positions, would later aim for the sky. He ran for president of Tanzania in October 2015, flooring former Prime Minister Edward Lowassa. Elected as Tanzania's 5th president, Magufuli successfully defended his seat during the 2020 controversial election that saw his main challenger Tundu Lissu reject the election result and flee the country for Germany, citing threats to his life. It was a mixed bag for Magufuli at the helm, earning him both praises and condemnation. Pombe had a Tanzania first approach that guided his decision-making, policy and diplomatic engagements.
Tunataka tujenge nidhamu, watu wetu wafanye biashara free, pasiwepo na matatizo yoyote.
Kenya and Tanzania have on several occasions differed sharply. At one point, President John Magufuli said his country was not a grazing land for the neighboring country's cows, referring to Kenya amid heightened tensions over grazing land.
Kama atachaguliwa Mwinyi, kama atachaguliwa.
He is remembered for implementing strict austerity measures in his government, leading by example as being the only president in Tanzania that never traveled outside Africa. His style of leadership saw him nicknamed the bulldozer, and is best remembered for his roadside declarations and holding civil servants accountable in the open under a program called Kero Lako. Cowboy contractors who failed to meet their part of the bargain were stripped of their licenses and slapped with hefty fines. Political pundits described President Pombe Magufuli as a benevolent dictator under whose tenure the democratic space was constricted, ruthlessly dealing with the opposition, painting him as intolerant to divergent opinion and criticism. Media and human rights suppression was witnessed, with several individuals being arrested and arraigned on trumped-up charges. and some media outlets being forced to offer week-long apologies, including a Kenyan media house. And in some instances, operating licenses would be suspended. During his first term, he barred young girls who got pregnant while still in school from continuing with their education, a move he said was aimed at eradicating moral decadence.
Mtu ametoka para amepata mtoto, amezaa, iwe kwa makusudi, iwe kwa raha yake, iwe kwa bahati mbaya, aende shuleni ameshazaa. Hawa wengine ambao hawajazaa, si atawafundisha? Halafu akipata mimba tena ya pili, anaenda nyumbani, akizaa tena anarudi shuleni. Anapata mimba ya tatu, anaenda nyumbani, akizaa anarudi shuleni. Yaani tusomeshe wazazi. Nataka niwaambie, na hizi NGO na nini wote mnaosikia, ndani ya utawala wangu kama rais, hakuna mwenye mimba atakayerudi shuleni.
When COVID-19 pandemic struck, the president declared resistance against the virus, dismissing all health protocols. He began by denying its existence and tasking security forces to clandestinely test COVID-19 PCR kits for quality.
Tulipopeleka sample ya papai, tukaipa jina Elizabeth Anne, miaka 26, female. Papai lile lilikuwa positive kwamba lina corona. Kwa hiyo kuna watu, kutokana na extrapolation ya hizi information nilizonazo, lazima kuna watu wameambiwa positive wakati si wagonjwa wa corona, na inawezekana wengine wakafa kwa hofu.
As the pandemic ravages hit home harder, the doctor in chemistry went herbal, first importing herbs from Madagascar, before installing steam booths where Tanzanians were advised to spend at least 5 minutes inside. A staunch Catholic who rarely missed church service on Sunday, Magufuli declined to close places of worship. He neither put in place containment measures nor imposed lockdowns in Tanzania, as was widely witnessed around the world. President Dr. John Pombe Magufuli Joseph is survived by his wife Janet Magufuli and 3 children. Duncan Hemba, KTN News.
Well, so news such as this, when news such as this breaks, journalists scamper to try and bring you all the latest details from what you're doing here with this broadcast to the Standard newspaper. Such a turnaround on this special edition for the death of John Pombe Magufuli. The curtain falls. End of an era, you could say. My colleagues Jesse Rogers and Trix Ngado are joining me from the newsroom where all the action is happening. They'll be taking you through the newspaper review, see some of the big stories that you should be expecting on your Standard newspaper today. Good morning, Jesse and Trix.
Good morning to you, Akisa.
A very good morning to you.
Quite a day. We haven't slept, but what do we have in this special edition of the Standard?
Emanating from Tanzania following the death of President John Pombe Magufuli. We'll definitely cover it in a way only we can right here, even as the country starts officially mourning the passing on of the president. The flags will fly at half-mast for 14 days, even as the transition to the vice president, who is currently the acting president, Samia Suluhu Hassan.
Absolutely. And like Akisa said earlier on, that we journalists do scamper for all manner of information when such a sudden death happens, because of the prominence and of course the importance. Everybody wants to know what happened to this president, and this is a particularly unique case because of the fact that he went missing from the public light. We do know that he was quite boisterous, he was quite outspoken and loud as a leader, and when such a leader goes missing, there are a lot of questions that are asked. The media in Tanzania was largely quiet about this issue. Of course, we do know what the relations between the press and the authorities. But here in Kenya, all the papers were asking the same question: where is President John Pombe Magufuli? And as it were, he was ailing, and now we have had this report in which the media has had to come together and bring out reports that reflect the fact that he was having a heart condition, as has been announced by the DP, and therefore later on passed on. Now, when you look at the papers, very interesting approach that they have taken this morning, and it can perhaps reflect on how newsrooms actually prepare for such news. And we'll start off with the Standard, closer to home. What stands out to you, Jesse, when you look at this paper this morning?
Well, it's definitely a special edition, bearing in mind this news just broke when the papers were actually being printed and circulation perhaps might have started. But on the Standard, the color is definitely telling.
Yes.
Green color synonymous on the flag of Tanzania, as well as the party in which John Pombe Magufuli was a leader, Chama cha Mapinduzi. And the headline as well, Kwaheri Magufuli, definitely taking that angle of Kwaheri, the Swahili, which is the national language in Tanzania. Perhaps just to highlight some of the details on the front page of the Standard, the curtain falls. A shaken Vice President Samia Suluhu Hassan tells the Tanzanian nation in a televised address on TBC just last night at around 9 p.m. that President Magufuli, an avowed COVID-19 skeptic, had died at Mzena Hospital in Dar es Salaam, where he had been receiving treatment for a heart condition.
Indeed, and they do have quite a spread that is spanning between pages 2 all the way to between pages 2 and pages 7, and we shall be digging deeper to see the various angles that they have been covering. And of course, this is not something that could happen overnight, so it shows that a lot of work goes into preparing for such an occurrence. But the various angles have been teased on the front page, and we shall look at some of them. On the front page of the Standard, we're told about his health shrouded in controversy till the last days. That's pointing to those questions of where is the president when a president disappears? What happens? What are the laws saying with regards to this? And then we have history of frosty relations with Kenya. A very interesting article has been, published in the Standard this morning. At the same time, death robs Tanzania of key personalities. We heard Akisa Wandera telling us earlier on about some of those personalities that country has lost, unfortunately. The Daily Nation this morning is having a similar, rather the same headline, Kwaheri Magufuli. A sense of unity is felt when you look at them both, because something that unites Tanzania and Kenya, far from proximity, also is the language. And of course, Kwaheri Magufuli speaks to that. Now, they're talking about transition. John Pombe Magufuli, the Tanzanian president, who has been missing in public since February 27th, dies of heart complications in Dar es Salaam, throwing a country that has only changed president through elections into mourning as Vice President Samia Suluhu takes over as the first female leader of the country and the first in the country and the first in East Africa. That's two firsts you have there, and their spread is between page 2 and page 3, significantly less compared to the Standard. Jesse, shall we take a look at what's inside the Standard?
Definitely quite detailed in terms of the life and times of President John Pombe Magufuli, on terms of his political legacy, the diplomacy relations between Tanzania and the neighboring countries during his reign as presidency. But it would be keen to note that page 6 of the Standard definitely outlines the profile, the timelines of COVID-19 in Tanzania, as well as the prominent deaths within that particular country that have been robbed due to COVID-19. It's also critical to note that a lot of speculation was definitely in the air surrounding the lack of visibility around the president. Definitely an issue of national concern, national security. As we mentioned, he hadn't been seen in public since February 27th, roughly 18 days till this particular announcement was made on national television by the Vice President Samia Suluhu. So let's just take a look briefly at the profile. Our reporter Duncan Haemba definitely did break this down down deliberately, but it would be proper to note that his particular name, Bulldozer. Yes, and there's a story behind it. He did serve in the Ministry of Public Works, and definitely this name was synonymous with his style of leadership, bulldozing through policies and the likes.
Apparently, he would take no hostages. If he wanted something to be done, he would actually behave like a bulldozer, and this nickname stuck, and it actually also went all through to his legacy. And so this is something that is not being overlooked by the papers. The bulldozer is all over the pages. On page 6 of the Standard this morning, the profile that has been published this morning, the first thing that you see there, nickname Bulldozer, and then they go into details about where he was born. As we've heard in the stories that came out earlier, he was born on October 29th, 1959 in Chato District in Kagera Province. Then together with his wife, his wife is called Janet Magufuli, and they have, according to this story, curiously, they say the paper says they have 5 children. Heimbel's story said they have 3 children. So
definitely. I think the devil is in the detail, but be that as it may, it would be keen to note.
Who is right with regards to this fact about his kids?
Exactly.
And then we shall be confirming that for you. And then we have, he is a devout Catholic. This is something that even informed how he handled matters with the LGBTQ society, how he handled matters with teenage pregnancies and contraception in that country. At the same time, when it came to the coronavirus, a lot of his handling of the matter had religious undertones, and that Catholicism that is being pointed out here became very apparent to Tanzanians, the continent, and the entire world.
And I think that's why he was criticized a little bit about his strong handship in politics and certain policies. But he was definitely a veteran in politics, joining politics in 1995 as he represented Chato constituency in Parliament. And this is a constituency he represented all the way to 2015 until when he ascended to the presidential position in that particular country. But that wasn't it. He did serve in various ministerial positions, as we had earlier mentioned. Among them was the Ministry of Public Works, among others, right, Trix?
Absolutely, and he held various ministerial positions, as you said. And then another curious thing before we go on break, we have an element of his academic achievements, which were quite elaborate, and they have been put here in the paper, and it would actually point to why he had a certain approach to the coronavirus, why he was testing random things himself. He had a background in chemistry. He had a degree in chemistry and mathematics from the Dar es Salaam University, a master's degree in the University of Salford in the UK, and a PhD in chemistry from Dar es Salaam University. So that explains a lot about his approach towards coronavirus.
Exactly. Apart from being a politician, he was a school teacher and a chemist at that particular matter. So even as we continue deliberating on some of the stories covered in the Standard and the local dailies, allow us to cross over back to studio. Our anchor, colleague rather, Akisa Wendera, is right there. Akisa, back to you. What's the latest?
Well, thank you, Jesse and Trix. Of course, we'll be going back there in a short while, just looking at the latest details and some of the reactions we are getting from across quarters. But before then, in July last year, President Magufuli caused a stir when he made a public phone call to President Uhuru Kenyatta after Kenya returned 35 kilograms of gold worth approximately 168 million shillings and a stash of money stolen from the Bank of Tanzania and seized at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport earlier in the year. Let's take a look.
Nzuri bana, mzigo umeshafika hapa. Aha, basi mimi nakushukuru sana Mheshimiwa Rais.
Asante.
Dada yangu Monica ameshashusha mzigo hapa wote.
Ameushusha?
Mzigo wote nimeuangalia hapa na ninaiona ni vyenyewe kabisa.
Asante. Nimesema ya kwamba mali ya wananchi wetu lazima irudi kwa wananchi wetu.
Sawa kabisa. Halo, endelea, wanakushangilia watu hapa maneno mazuri uliyozungumza. Hebu mumshangilie tena Mheshimiwa Uhuru.
wananchi wametupatia imani yao, kutupatia uongozi. Sisi yetu ni kuhakikisha tumetenda haki na tumelinda mali ya wananchi wetu, na mali hiyo iende kutujengea mahospitali, mabarabara, mashule, kuunganisha watu wetu kwa stima. Walegai hawa hawana nafasi katika nchi zetu tena.
Safi kabisa.
Na mimi ndugu yangu nasema tuendelee kushirikiana namna hiyo. Kenya na Tanzania vile tulisema hatuna mpaka. Sisi ni kitu kimoja na lazima tuendelee kuwa kitu kimoja, tusaidiane mpaka tufukuze umaskini katika nchi zetu.
Asante sana.
Kwa hayo machache mimi nasema Mungu abariki yangu, abariki wa Tanzania wote. Tuendelee na uhusiano mwema, tuendelee na ujirani wetu. Na vile tulisema tukiwa Chato, Mungu akusaidia. Mtu anajitafutia marafiki, lakini Mungu ndio anakuchagulia jirani. Mungu ametuchagua tuwe pamoja, lazima tuendelee pamoja.
Asante sana. Mheshimiwa Rais, mimi nakushukuru sana kwa maneno mazuri. Undugu wa Kenya na Tanzania uko pale pale. Kamwe hapa tatokea mtu wa kututenganisha. Tutaendelea kupendana mpaka maendeleo ya Wakenya na Watanzania yaweze kupatikana. Fedha hizi tunazozikusanya na hii dhahabu, nilikuwa nawaambia Watanzania, tungekuwa sisi watu wabaya, hii dhahabu wewe ungeikata huko moja kwa moja.
Sisi hivyo.
Na hizi noti wala zisingekuja hapa karibu milioni 500. Na ndio maana ninawaambia Rais Uhuru Kenyatta ana moyo wa kizalendo, anawapenda wa Kenya, anawapenda wa Tanzania. Na mimi nikawa ninachomekea, nikawa nawaambia na mimi ningekuwa mbaya, tungezungumza kwa siri hizi hela wasingeziona wa Tanzania. Tungekata tukagawana polepole, wangebaki kuandika kwenye magazeti, lakini heri imeliwa. Lakini ni upendo wa pekee wa wananchi wetu wa Kenya na wa Tanzania, ndio maana tumezitoa hizi hadharani. Wameziona wa Tanzania na wa Kenya wote kwamba mali imerudi. Na nataka nikuhakikishie Mheshimiwa Rais, wale wanaofanyaga mabaya ambao ni wa Kenya, ambao wanafanya huko wanakimbilia huku, kuanzia sasa wasifanye.
Nishamsema kuni.
Tutawarudisha kwa nguvu na watashughulikiwa kikamilifu. Na mimi nakushukuru sana wale wanaofanya mabaya huku Tanzania na wanakimbilia Kenya, unawashughulikia kikamilifu. Lakini la mwisho ambalo nataka niliseme, nataka uwapongeze sana vyombo vya ulinzi na usalama vya Kenya, kwa sababu hii mali ilitokea Tanzania, haikushikwa na vyombo vya ulinzi vya Tanzania. Ilipofika Kenya ikashikwa. Kwa hiyo vyombo vya ulinzi na usalama vya Kenya vinavyoshughulikia hii mali ya wizi wanajituma kikamilifu. Nitataka fikisha shukrani zangu na pongezi kwa waliohusika wote. Nitatafuta zawadi kwa niaba ya Watanzania. Nitatafuta zawadi kwa niaba ya Watanzania. Ili
hizo pongezi na hongera zitafika.
Asante sana. Na kama wana mbinu zingine wanazozitumia, wawafundishe wenzao wa Tanzania.
Ndio tuhakikishe ya kwamba hawa watu ambao wananyanyasa wananchi wetu hawana nafasi katika nchi zetu.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Rais, asante sana Mheshimiwa Rais.
Uhuru Kenyatta and Tanzanian President John Pombe Magufuli in 2019 there on a public call And of course, a lot has been said on the kind of relationship Tanzania and Kenya have enjoyed in the past few years, and especially the first term that the President John Pombe Magufuli served as a president. My colleague Ben Kitili is joining me in studio now. Ben, good morning. I know we'll have a lot to say about the Kenya-Tanzania relations and, of course, the politics that we expect that